Hello, and welcome to this research presentation. But chips are really unhealthy, right? Aren't they high in fat, you might be asking? Let's find out what we know about chips and see what we can discern about this addictive snack. Are chips unhealthy? Here in Australia, healthy eating recommendations are provided by our government, and they are based on the most recent nutritional research available. Presented in these Australian dietary guidelines, potato chips are listed in the category of discretionary foods. These are foods described as not necessary for a healthy diet and are too high in saturated fat and/or sugars, added salt or alcohol, and low in fiber. Discretionary food serving sizes are considered 600 kilojoules, with 0 to 3 serves per day recommended for most people. Within the discretionary food category, potato chips are listed under the higher fat subcategory. How do us Aussies like to snack? A cross-sectional study in 2019 analysed the National Nutrition and Physical Activity Survey of 2011 and 2012. This survey of 9,341 Australian adults indicated that 98% of participants had discretionary foods on a daily basis and consumed on average 5 discretionary food servings per day. Participants also had large portion sizes of 2 to 3 serving sizes at a time. This consumption status is at definite odds with the government's recommendations of 3 or less serves per day. So with the knowledge that potato chips are discretionary foods high in fat, and that Aussies are eating more discretionary foods than recommended, what are the health implications? The fats found in potato chips include saturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and trans fats. Of these types of fat, saturated fats pose threat to human health as they have been found to raise serum cholesterol levels. These raised levels have been found to have positive association with coronary heart disease. A reduction in saturated fat in the diet was also correlated with lowered serum cholesterol levels and a lowered risk of cardiovascular disease. An alternative fat, polyunsaturated fats, have been found to be the most protective and risk-lowering replacement for saturated fats in the diet, as reported by the National Health Foundation in 2017. While location of discretionary food placement in supermarkets in Australia has been studied as recently as 2006, consumer interest and knowledge about healthy options has been surveyed, and development and market growth has been meticulously assessed, a report of current supermarket offerings comparing nutritional attributes is not available. This is where this study began. This study aims to determine if there are any potato chip options on the current market that can be enjoyed as part of a healthy diet as recommended by the Australian Dietary Guidelines. This means we are looking for low saturated fat content, so these snacks contribute less to serum cholesterol levels. If there are options, how many options do we have, and what is their prevalence? This is an observational cross-sectional study which was conducted over a 3-day period in April 2020. Products were excluded if they were not available on Australian supermarket shelves, not shelf-stable, not ready to eat, or had an ingredients listing for potato of less than 50%. Duplicates of the same product in different sized packages were also excluded, and, where possible, the larger multi-serving packages were selected. Information collected was the brand, name of product, price per 100 grams, recommended serving size, and per 100 grams the total fat, saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and trans fat. First, websites of major supermarket chains were searched using search terms potato, chips, snacks, and crisps. Nutritional panels for applicable products were then analysed and relevant information was recorded. Items for which complete nutritional profiles could not be found were also recorded. Brand websites and small chain supermarkets were then searched for products or missing nutritional information. On the third day of collection, supermarkets were visited by the researcher to obtain information direct from product packaging. Statistical analysis involved cleaning the data. There were very limited instances of error, and then calculating some new variables. These were kilojoules from saturated fat per serving size and grams of saturated fat per recommended serving size. The latter was then divided into categories of low, moderate, and high saturated fat per serve. These category ranges were decided on based on the contribution the saturated fat would make to the average Australian diet of 8,700 kilojoules. So, what were the results of the statistical analysis? A total of 125 products were found to fit criteria for this study. Their prices ranged from 87 cents to $4, and all products had values available for their saturated fat content. For a large number of products, polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, and trans fat quantities were not available from producers. 82 had values for polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, and 75 had values for their trans fat content. The median serving size was 25 grams, and the median total fat per 100 grams was 29.3 grams. Saturated fat grams per recommended serving size ranged from 0.15 grams to 7.18 grams, with an average of 2.04 grams. These scores had a non-normal distribution with a positive skew and a significant KS value of 0.00. Meaning more of the data fell towards the left of the graph, as you can see here. This shows that lower saturated fat content per serve was found more frequently than higher saturated fat content. When saturated fat per serving size was broken into categories, this was how the data looked. Low saturated fat was considered any value under 2 grams. Moderate was 2.01 to 3.99 grams, and high was any value above that. We can see here that low saturated fat options were in the majority and showed a prevalence of 0.568 or 56.8%. The findings of prevalence in favor of low saturated fat content show that many options are currently available for the consumer. Nutrient reference values for Australia and New Zealand suggest that a limit of 8 to 10% of daily energy intake may come from saturated fat. With an average of 2 grams of saturated fat per recommended serving size in current market offerings, even populations consuming these products at 2 or 3 times the recommended amount will not breach the maximum contribution to their daily energy intake. The Australian market for healthy snacks has seen a growth of 2.7% in the last 5 years and is predicted to continue growing for the next 5. This reflects our data findings that lower saturated fat potato chips are the predominant finding on supermarket shelves at 56.8% prevalence. Some limitations are that the researcher of this study selected suppliers of potato chip products based on personal knowledge and availability due to location. This was limited by the COVID-19 social distancing requirements. This led to a potentially limited pool of data. While major supermarkets were searched, smaller or independent shops may sell snacks that were not counted in this report. This study was cross-sectional and was conducted during the COVID-19 induced quarantine period during 2020. This time period may have impacted products available to be assessed due to low stock from limited transport, production, or panic buying, or reduced sales offered, affecting the usual pricing. Likewise, having only assessed products in a narrow window of time may not accurately reflect annual variety, prices, or availability. The The strengths of this study were that it was free of many biases due to its nature, it was able to be conducted quickly and relatively easily and at low cost. All information required was available publicly, and there were no ethical considerations when collecting it. This study has high repeatability and would be useful when reviewing the market in future. The findings of this study have good practical application for healthcare professionals when working with clients to design dietary plans, and additionally, these findings could be useful as a resource for government and institutional publications for public health education and awareness. Future sequential analysis is recommended for longer-term and up-to-date information. Thank you for watching this presentation, and happy snacking!